Tracey Joy. This is an incredible opportunity. I remember Bill telling me actually a month ago, and I was really excited for it. It is such a great opportunity for not even like people in the accounting industry, but in marketing with different interests. And so today we'll just go ahead. I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Sabina, and I'm from the University of Washington. I'm majoring in accounting, information systems, and political science. And here with us today is Ms. Tracey Joy. She's a CFO of Toyota Motor Sales and a Group Vice President, Accounting and Finance of Toyota Motor North America. She leads a team responsible for accounting, finance, tax, treasury, vehicle cost, and shared services supporting Toyota's regional operations. And these include sales, manufacturing, design, engineering for Toyota, and the Lexus brands, which is very exciting because I'm sure we all know the brand. In fact, she's also an executive member of management, audit, risk, and benefit committees responsible for setting strategy, midterm business plans, and guiding Toyota's sustainable growth. And even apart from all of these professional experiences, she serves on the board of directors and audit committee of City National Bank, the board of directors of the National Asian Pacific Island American Chamber of Commerce, Entrepreneurship, the U.S. and Japan Council, and the Japanese American National Museum. So that's a lot of title and experiences under your biography. And so I'm sure we can all learn a lot from this conversation in a way that's very conversational and engaging. And so Ariana will kind of introduce herself and then cover the ground rules before we start with our questions for you. And then we'll jump into segment 2, which we will answer your questions.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here once again. We're very ecstatic to have you on this call. My name is Ariana McManus. I attend the University of Colorado, Denver. I'm a junior studying marketing and minoring in political science, as well as obtaining a certificate in strategic communication. Outside of school, I love to hike mountain trails, and I like to spend time with loved ones, but most of my time is dedicated to studies and just extracurricular activities. So I wanted to, for the community members, just to set a couple of ground rules so we're all on the same page throughout this call. Let's just make sure all our phones and mobile devices are muted. And when you do want to speak, make sure your answers are concise. We have limited time. And finally, if you wish to add a comment, please use the texting feature to alert Sabina and I, and we will get to you. So use your webcam when you are speaking and only when you are speaking. So that should be it. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Ariana. So we'll just go ahead and jump right in. We have a lot of topics to cover, such as culture, finance, reflection, global trend, industry, and some personal questions that we like to ask you about. So to start, I think culture is very important, especially as you're a top management and a leader in your industry. So as a successful and influential leader in a top 10 Fortune 500, how do you help build company culture through leadership and stimulate cohesiveness between different departments?
Well, first, I just want to thank everyone for having me on your program today. I'm really honored, and I think it's so exciting to have this community of such a vast array of clearly very talented young professionals. My goodness, I don't know how you can squeeze anything in with the majors that you have. But when I think about for Toyota's culture, we're a very collaborative environment and really look to try to reach out to individuals to get their best thoughts and minds. And so for my role, I'd give you 2 examples. One is, I'm always trying to drive to improve profit. And I think storytelling helps for people to appreciate how they can help contribute to the top line growth and also to support a competitive cost structure. So what I try to do is connect the dots. I mean, I think of finance as being the glue to try to encourage crossover ideas to get the most out of everybody. So one example would be our head of our Kentucky plant is Will James, and he is responsible for producing our new Camry, which is our top-selling vehicle. It's important that he connects with our head of sales so that they can be focused on the same goal. And my goal, trying to make sure that the vehicle is successful, and then, making sure we understand what the capacity is at the plant, and then hopefully that improves the mix of product that we're selling and our bottom line. So I think it's collaboration, really strong communication, education, and ensuring that everybody's working well together. The second example, though, I'd give you is one that's near and dear to my heart, is trying to build a culture that appreciates the diversity of our people, that connects well with our customer base. So I'm involved with our business partnering groups. Our Tasia team is representative of our API colleagues, as well as anybody who wants to support these areas. We have a really philanthropic focus, and I think that shows that everybody can be involved in making a difference. On the women's front, we have a very active women's business partnering group, and I'm really excited that we have a North America Women's Conference to bring people together and share thoughts and ideas. So I think giving back and sharing voice and giving others a way to contribute is a way to build culture.
Yeah, that's awesome. That really shows the cohesiveness and the importance of setting the tone at the top and creating an environment that's not only creative, but also very innovative. And so leading into that, like you said, finance is kind of like the glue that kind of, sticks all these departments together. So what is the key to a successful budget? I know it's really broad, and so a successful budget, what does that look like to you? And what are the key drivers to transform the profitability of a business?
So what we typically start off with is a 5-year outlook. We're not looking at just that first year, and consider what the key objectives are for the company of what we're trying to achieve. And so you have to look at the macro environment, the competitive landscape. Right now, in automotive as an example, it's towards the peak of our sales. We're about 17 million units in the U.S., and so it's very, very strong. But what we can see is some of the drivers are starting to help push down. Interest rates are rising, a little less consumer confidence. The mix of products is shifting. So I can look at that framework and see that there's going to be pricing pressure. And that'll cause some concerns for us. We also look at what's the product mix coming out. So what are we going to be selling? What are we going to be producing? What's popular? And that can make a difference on our margins. And then from a cost structure perspective, I really try to have all of our team listen really closely to our internal customers, understand what their business plans are, and then help them be part of the process. Because what I hate to see is someone feeling like they're not winning in this budget effort, because everybody comes to the table and they've all got a great idea and they all want to be funded. So it's important to make sure that everybody understands the macro picture and we're all pulling in the same direction. We're all working to try to make a stronger tomorrow, and I try to show people the cycle. In order to invest in the future, we have to do really well now, and maybe that means trade-off decisions. So your most important project may not get funded right now, and I know you're going to be disappointed, but Sabina's will go first, and then Ariana will go next. But all of us are moving towards the same direction.
That's interesting. So how do you determine priorities for different projects? Is it the financing of it or the outlook and the innovation of it?
It's kind of both, right? We are really focused on the midterm view, and so it's important to be investing for longer term. I'll give you an example. The Prius is the most popular hybrid. The first version of it was invested in 1971 of a hybrid, so it was important to be thinking about the future long, long before. So sometimes when we make investments for things like a fuel cell technology, which we believe is going to be the next generation and really environmentally focused, we're not out there trying to make money at the beginning. We're looking at possibilities. And that could be true right now of our focus is mobility for everyone. It's mobility across town. It's mobility within a room. Thinking about robotics and artificial intelligence, it's important to think about, okay, that bucket might be longer term innovation. Midterm might be how to make sure the infrastructure is in place for manufacturing the next generation of our hybrids. And then short term could just be what needs to get taken care of to build our new campus. So I think once you start looking at those buckets, then you can start evaluating trade-off decisions. But we also look at it for our lines of business as well. We want to be sure that we're promoting Lexus and Toyota, not starving one and then the other. So I don't know if that helps with.
No, that really helps. I've loved everything that you said. It made a lot of sense. And so kind of just linking it to actually reflection, because you mentioned different projects and such as building campus, long-term and short-term. How would you describe your most effective leadership style? Because you're dealing with different teams of people with different diversity and different ingredients in the mix. And so how do you tailor it to different departments?
So it's being conscious of who the audience is and thinking about what's in it for them, what's driving them, and trying to put myself in their shoes so that I can have that empathy, but also helping to educate them on Global Toyota and what Global Toyota needs as well. So I think that's learning how to support my customers has taken time, and I'll share with you that I always look at that stakeholder map. So we just reorganized our company, and I'm having to sit there and take what I call a spiderweb view. I look at what are the interdependencies and what are the dependencies that matter most. So let me give you an example right now. We're in need of manufacturing trucks that are high demand. So that emphasis is going to be a higher priority, so it's a bigger bubble. And the interdependencies could be logistics, it could be our capital plan, and it could be people. So I need to make sure that our human resources group is on board, our production engineering group is on board, and the group that doesn't get the funding, that they understand. So I think the style is a lot more interface and communications than what you might expect when you first go into finance and accounting.
Right.
When I was majoring in accounting, my dad said, you know, why would you want to be a bean counter? They're counting beans, and that sounds so boring. I said, well, I think initially it was all about the education and the training. And then once I got deeper into different industries, it's so much more interesting than that. But the style, focus, it's all about being yourself. And I think being true to yourself is important. I'm never going to be, I don't know, I know my job is to be the yes and the no person, but I also want to get agreement and alignment. So it has described it as managing with a velvet glove. Got to be tough when you need to be tough, but it doesn't have to have roadkill along the way. And that's the style that I want to have. I want to be collaborative, be inclusive, and have strong buy-in.
Wow, that was really helpful. Being in the accounting department, I see that yes and no, and you know, counting beans, and then my friends say that to me all the time. But especially after looking at audit and risk, and even after taking tax classes myself, it is really so much more than that. It's not only setting the environment, not only ensuring compliance, but also really looking at how a company work internally and externally and present itself to not only the employees inside and management, but also the, you know, the stockholders, the shareholders, and people investing outside. And so hearing that about Toyota and how you manage your teams was really helpful.
Well, I think you always want to take a customer view. So whether you're in marketing, you're in PR, you're in engineering, it's all about facilitation, right? All of us have a different role, a technical expertise, but what's it really come down to? Trying to make sure we have happy customers, they have the product that they're really interested in, the latest technology. All of us play a part in that. So I think you're going to enjoy your interview.
For your, I just really wanted to applaud you for your answer regarding just being yourself. I think a lot of times as we move up the ladder and we, you know, have more pressures and more priorities in our lives, sometimes we forget just to be ourselves, and that being ourselves is enough. So it's just very reassuring to hear that from you. I really love that word of advice. You did mention global Toyota, so we kind of wanted to shift gears and talk about global trends. So our question for you is, being in a competitive industry and in a global company, have you seen any changes in the way companies approach culture and communication?
Well, it is a competitive environment, and that's why I wanted to talk to you about how to attract talent. So we'll set that aside as another topic that we'll cover off next. But encouraging innovation is really key to stay ahead and to be competitive. And we're always striving to challenge what's possible. So Toyota's tenets are respect for people, which I interpret as being inclusive of thought. And if we're inclusive of different voices, I think we end up with a stronger solution set for any problem or countermeasure that we're addressing. We also end up with a much better product if we're really listening to the different voices from different backgrounds. And so even though whatever you're majoring in, you may sit there and think that this is the direction I'm going to go into, I have a feeling that all of you are going to be finding some twists and turns along your career path, giving you different perspectives that you can offer. So we're really looking for different ideas from different perspectives. I'd also say we're changing the way that we work. Our new campus that we're building, we have a 100-acre campus that we're building in Plano, Texas. In the facility I'm in right now in Torrance, it's much more traditional of a lot of offices, separate cubes. Our new environment is about 50% collaborative space, and it's intended to have a lot more huddle space, or probably similar to what you're seeing on your college campuses, because we recognize that a creative thought, an open environment is much more welcoming, and maybe in a relaxed environment, you'll get into your best zone of thinking. So I was recently learning more about how to have our best thought by having people in their flow state. And flow state means that you're not sitting here locked at your desk, feeling like that you're working away at your computer, more about how can we have an interaction and maybe banter about getting our best ideas. How do we bring our best self to work? It's really what it comes down to.
I love that. I wish my firms would do that. It seems like Ariana is experiencing technical difficulties. So I'll just carry on with what she was trying to ask too. I think she was trying to go into industry especially. So I feel like not even for accounting or finance industries, but most management roles, not to stereotype, but they've been male-dominated roles. And so when we're talking about diversity, people often focus on race or ethnicity or national origin, but we're talking about gender here. So we're not only talking about people in management who are of a different race, but also a different gender. And so personally, how has your experience been like being a leader in your industry, and how do you think that contributed to you being in a flow state or even achieving your potential?
I probably didn't focus as much about it when I joined Toyota. Once I got in the company, and I'll share with you from a diversity perspective, it's not just gender, because there are not enough women at a senior level. We're really trying to develop the next generation. I'm proud that this last year we promoted 5 group managers, which is the entry-level executive within my team, and 4 of them were women. I think it really takes a lot of focus on development and ensuring that there's mentorship available, but also visibility. Because when you think about the voice in the room, when you think about people who are making decisions about succession planning, giving people the opportunity for really great projects that are going to give them the experience that they need to move to the next level, that decision of who is involved with that is someone who's in the majority. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
That could be male. It could be someone who's a more senior decision-making power. So I'm conscious of the gender component of that, and that's why there's been so much effort on building our women's group and giving them access to senior leaders who could be male. One example of that is our Women in Leadership Development Group. High potential women that are identified by their officers. They go through a 6-month intense program where it's some outside development, there's group projects, and they give readouts to our executive team. To me, it's not as much about their project, it's about giving them visibility so that they're getting considered for the next openings, the next promotions, the next projects. So that's one area of focus. I'd also share with you it's very different to work for a Japanese company and to be Japanese American. So I'm 4th generation Japanese American. I speak very little Japanese. I went to Japanese Saturday school. I was not a good student, unfortunately. My grandfather is looking down to me, wishing that I would study harder. But it's a great opportunity as well to try to help on an international basis. So I've had the pleasure of hosting a mentoring circle in Japan, and it's really an exciting opportunity to spend time with high potential women in Tokyo and in Toyota City. So in automotive, we have a long way to go. So if I'd encourage any of you who are thinking about it, maybe just link in with me later so I could share with you where there are career opportunities within Toyota. And in all facets, it's not just accounting and finance. Marketing, engineering, communication, government affairs. We have a lot of need for talent. It's good for you just to get a better understanding and experience, because automotive in general is starving for more gender diversity and ethnic diversity.
That's really great. Personally, my best friend actually interned at Toyota in Japan last summer. Yeah, and she grew up in Taiwan but received education at University of Washington, and then she completed an internship at Toyota last summer, and she said there was a lot of learning. There was that learning curve to not only learn about the company but about the culture there and how different it is when you're talking about the same company but in different countries and doing different things with different sets of values. Yeah, and so she said that was very interesting. So to hear you speak about that, that was really cool.
It is quite a different environment in Japan than it would be in the U.S., so I applaud that you've done that, and I'm sure that the team there learned a lot from her, and that's the two-way side of it, right?
I'm sorry, I was absent for a moment there. My connection just disconnected, and so I'm in a different room now. It's a little dark, but I hope you can still see me well. That question that Sabina asked is actually very near and dear to my heart. I'm extremely involved in women's rights, and I'm just very excited every time I see a woman who takes on these executive high-profile positions. I wish it was more common. So the reason I wanted to ask that is just in a form, how can we empower other women to, reach your level and, really inspire them to know that they can also be the CFO?
I think I would share with you that maybe consider how you build your brand, your personal brand. And depending upon where you are in your career, you're building out your competencies, your technical skills. So when you first get out of school and when you're working in your internships, I think you're developing your core capabilities. And that continues. I really would encourage ongoing development.
Mm-hmm.
The other, deliver on your outcomes, whatever you're asked to do. I know that all of you, based upon your really impressive resumes, that you deliver above and beyond. But that reliability is part of that reputation that you're building.
Mm-hmm.
What I probably have learned along the way, and I've probably tried to emphasize that in our discussion, is relationship building is very key to getting any work done. And initially, I would say I was pretty heads down, working really hard, and I think that that's probably an Asian trait of studying hard, doing well, and you turn everything in, you expect to get your A+, that's how you're going to get recognized. But I think I've learned along the way, it's how do you build teams to for a stronger outcome. And when you think of your own personal brand, how do you want people to describe you versus how do they describe you? If they said, what do you think of Tracey in 3 words? Is that what I want to be described as? And that's the personal brand that I would suggest helps kind of move you along the way. And I think my brand has changed over time because my capabilities have grown over time. Mm-hmm. And what I'm trying to do to serve the company and my team changes over time or situations.
Thank you so much for that answer. I think personal brand is extremely important, and sometimes it can be kind of hard to decide where to start to really cultivate that. But I think, again, going back to being yourself, that's how you create your personal brand. Just be you, and everything else will fall into place.
Yeah. Well, I have no doubt with all of you that you'll be totally fine. About where you are this early, and you haven't even formally launched, although I know all of you have a lot of great experience too.
And we've reached the half hour mark, and so we want to make sure that your answers are also answered by us. And I'm really excited because there is topics like brand, choice, challenge and inclusion, retention, a lot more. So we'll go ahead and jump into that segment if you're okay with that.
That sounds great.
Yeah, and so a very natural transition into branding. So to the National Millennial community, Tracey has asked, what are 3 words that come to mind when you hear Toyota? And we first have Alec.
Hello.
Hi, Alec.
How are you? I just want to first thank you for your time and tell you how much we appreciate you jumping on this call with us. We've been looking forward to this for a while.
My pleasure.
So I want to keep my answer short because I know we have a lot of topics that we'd like to cover tonight. So when I first read this question, I wanted to make sure you got a really, genuine response. It didn't sound like I was just researching Toyota and coming up with the best words. So honestly, the first perception that I had was that they are a leader, that they are one above the rest in the automotive industry. That's kind of always how I've perceived Toyota, that their reach goes far beyond any other brand out there. And the next 2 words that came to mind were that they're reliable and dependable. Growing up, I've always held that perception in my mind because both my parents have driven Toyotas my whole life. That's not just me.
Thank you for the loyalty.
Yeah, and I've seen that firsthand, their reliability. Very rarely have they broken down, and when they have, it was never too much of a pain to repair or too high of a cost to repair. So that's kind of how my perceptions have been developed over time.
Thank you for that, Alec. If you were to wish for a fourth word to describe Toyota, what would you add to that?
If I were to give a fourth word, I would probably say innovative, because actually it's funny you say that. Coincidentally, I've been seeing ads on my Facebook. Again, I haven't been doing much research other than the video that you sent us, and I see all these ads for all the technology that are coming out with the new Prius and everything. So I think innovative would be the next word to describe the brand as a whole.
Our chief marketer would be happy to hear that, because that is one of our objectives. So great.
I'm glad.
We're hoping as well that you're going to see more exciting, stylish product that fits your needs. And the last thing I'd share with you is that we really are trying to serve mobility for individuals, whether that be seniors or those that are handicapped, and take artificial intelligence that we use for safety, like automatic braking, or it's the beginning of autonomous vehicles, and help individuals also have a safer, easier life. So I just want you to know that.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you for your feedback, Alec.
Thank you, Alec. We actually have another person. We have Lee answering this.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Lee.
Hi, nice. How are you? Thank you so much for giving us some time to talk with you today. My name is Lee. I'm from Georgia Southern University. I'm a sophomore with a major in logistics and a minor in IS. And for your question, when I hear Toyota, there's three things that pop up in my mind. First of all, it's automobile, which is very, the second one is Asia. And the third one is my dad. The reason why I associate Toyota with my dad is because I grew up in Vietnam, so the idea of having a car is not very common. So when I was little, my dad had his first car, and that's our only car, and it's a Toyota Innova. And I have a lot of good memory like traveling in that car, so that's why I associate it with my dad.
I'm happy to hear that. That's wonderful. And I understand that you're studying supply chain. That's something that really fascinates me within the company. We have a logistics training program to help with some of the deeper understandings. A friend of mine started with that program 3 years ago, and just would share that that might be something you might want to look into.
Thank you.
I'm shamelessly recruiting, Bill.
That's really great. I really like Lee's answer, especially when she thought about her dad. My dad's first car was also Toyota, and so I'm not really, I only have one word to describe actually, and it would be personal. I feel like the products that you offer and your company as a whole is very personal to your customers. Whether we're talking about Camry or Prius, you're always thinking about your customers, like you said, and what they need, whether to save gas or, to be more actually be more affordable. So I think Toyota is a very personal company, and like Lee said, with her dad, and personally with my dad too, you can just see how traditionally it has been passed on, and how the brand kind of formed with this storytelling that's very generational. So that's one thing that I really like about it.
For sharing that. I love the feel-good videos when I see people's experiences growing up with the car. So Lee sharing that one.
If you don't mind, I would love to chime in on that too. My family, that's all we drive. And so along with, personal and family, the word that comes to my mind is safety. And it's because the reason that, we drive Toyotas is because they're reliable and safe. And so the trend will continue in the Nick Manish family. We will continue to drive Toyota.
Thanks for that.
That's great. So we'll jump into question 2 on choice. So you made a statement that in May 2017, Toyota is opening a new headquarter in Texas, right outside of Dallas. The 100-acre campus will house 4,000 team members. It's an employees market with an unemployment rate of only 2.5% for college-educated 25 years or older adults. And we actually have Edith to kind of comment on this.
Hi, Edith.
Hi, Tracy. How are you?
Good, good. I'm glad to see you.
Oh, for sure. You know, if you notice, me and Ariana are totally twinning right now. So this is great.
Turn on that.
Exactly. But it's very nice to meet you. My name is Edith Gomez, and I'm an alumni of the group. I graduated from California State University, Northridge with a major in marketing. So, and I own a Toyota as well. It is my first car, and I'm definitely glad I went with my Toyota Corolla over a Scion. So, thank you.
Thank you.
But and just doing more research about the headquarters and looking at Plano's community landscape, I think Toyota definitely positioned itself for positive, sustainable growth just because of all the big blue chip companies that are in and around Dallas and also Plano. But I think just kind of parlaying into question 3 a little bit, I like the fact that Toyota, I know right now they're hiring, or they were hiring like about 1,000 employees, and your CEO, Jim Lentz, if I'm saying that correctly, he kind of said that, you know, you're moving employees from California, Kentucky, and New York over to Plano because of the competitiveness that you guys are offering, the packages, the relocation, and I think it's actually pretty perfect because the wages, from what he said, are not, they're not changing, and because of the landscape and where you're at, it's very affordable to live. But I also want to say that in terms of the attractiveness for the company, I would definitely play on to the strong suits. You mentioned diversity, and you also mentioned the developing women roles. And I think because you're in a digital age, you need to use that to your advantage. Toyota continues to do really good initiatives with it. But I think because the way the country is going, where women's issues and gender equality is becoming more pertinent, if you can embed yourself more into that conversation and make it seem more of like, oh, I would identify with that scenario. I think more women and men would actually look to Toyota to say this is a company that's encouraging and supporting this type of movement, and then also continue to parlay the advantages of your location, the headquarters, because it is a developing, there's so many developing ecosystems that are going on in that place. Secondly, I would say, you know, hiring within. I did know that you mentioned that there are ways where employees that are currently Toyota employees can move up in different levels of the company. But also, I would reach out to your customers. I mean, if Toyota sent me something, a video or a mailing thing, and said, you know, we're hiring new facilities, you know, you're obviously a loyal Toyota customer because, I mean, now I purchased my Toyota. So I would be more inclined to you know, consider it and go for it, especially because Toyotas, they're really hitting the millennial market. And I know my Corolla, which was a sport, was made with me in mind because I use every part of it. And then lastly, I would just say, because of your strong ties to like STEM, technology and engineering, I would continue to push that forward, whether it be in the visual format or going up to the higher ups and really showing that Toyota is an innovative leader in these fields and how inclusive they are of women and equality and just everything moving forward. I think that would be a very positive thing to do for Toyota.
What great suggestions, Edith. I really, really appreciate you spending that much time to think it through. I love those ideas. And Cindy, you made the comment about thinking about our hiring from a customer perspective. Our HR team actually gave us advice that think of every interaction for any candidate that we're talking to as a potential customer. And I thought that that was a good framework to help my hiring managers as well, to think about the fact that even if, say, of course we want to see a perfect match, that someone matches up to the spec of the job and they're interested in us and we're interested in them. But if not, hopefully it's also an education about the company and what we have to offer. And that spreads the word that maybe through that informal network we can learn more. But I didn't think about the idea of reaching out to our customer base for potentials. And I also would agree with you. Our hope for the STEM is to figure out how to encourage engagement at a younger age to think of Toyota as a possibility and be excited about the challenge that ahead to think about joining us to be part of that innovation movement. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so going off of hiring, actually, very interesting. You mentioned that you guys, Toyota offers flexible work schedules, subsidizes dining facilities, full-service gym, convenience store, vehicle lease privileges, competitive salary, and great benefits. And so question is, how can Toyota stand out as an employee of choice, especially with millennials and Gen Z? And we have Amanda here to answer that for us.
Hi, Amanda.
Hello, Tracey. Hi. So I've really enjoyed this conversation so far. I love how y'all are so ingrained in leadership and developing women's potential, and I'm sold. I'm sold right now. But I really enjoyed this question, and those are obviously like really great benefits, really great amenities. But I think also I jotted down a few notes. It's important for Toyota to realize that the millennial experience for millennials at the younger end of the spectrum isn't necessarily what it looks like for millennials at the older end of the spectrum. And I think that as our needs are different, different things appeal to different people. So I'm 22 years old, and I'm a public relations graduate student from the University of Southern Mississippi. What appeals to me is flexibility and opportunity to grow within the company. I love the ideal of someone investing in me and seeing that maybe she doesn't know how to do this skill quite right now, but someone that's willing to watch me evolve as a professional, and someone that really is invested in me as a young professional. And I think also, in addition to the opportunities for advancement, opportunities to travel and relocate are very, very popular among millennials. A lot of us in this organization are primarily college students or alumni, so we might not necessarily have families yet. And I think that a lot of times we're really often to pick up and go where the opportunity leads us. We're not, tied down to a particular situation. So I think that emphasizing the ability to travel, or just having that option out there, is what's really going to make Toyota stand out for millennials. And also, we're really ingrained in social responsibility. So we love companies that are doing great things. We want to feel like the work that we do is meaningful, and those benefits are amazing, but we also want to feel like at the end of the day, we're working for a company that invests in our communities, like you said, which I love, a company that invests in us, and a company that's thinking about the world in terms of tomorrow in a few years rather than just today. So I think just focusing on those key characteristics right there is going to reach a lot more millennials, although the other benefits are awesome. Just focusing on those core values is what's really going to draw us in.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for sharing that. What strikes me about your comment of being able to get up and go and relocate and emphasize that, I think of how many of the universities have emphasized study abroad. So I didn't think about that as being something that we could share. On the STAR side, I'm really pleased that Toyota's expanded our philanthropic activity. We now have a program called Toyota for Good. We've always done a lot of charitable contributions, but we're now personalizing it more. Rather than just listing the top 10 charities that we could give and match to, we're offering to our team members that we'll match up to $10,000 for every individual of what they're giving to the charities of choice, and really trying to offer as well that if they give of their time, we'll also consider a match in dollars to help support that. But as far as giving back to the community besides writing the check, we're trying to offer our Toyota production services or systems, our problem solving to charities in need. So we recently revamped a food bank so that they could support their internal their processes could be a lot smoother to be able to pack up the food and be able to offer it to more people, or within a hospital to be able to support their patients in a more efficient way. And that, to me, is more valuable than the check that we're writing. So I think your ideas, Amanda, of how to share those stories are ones that I'm going to take back to our HR team. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. I really enjoyed your answer too, and I really agree with that. I think also when Amanda mentioned about the opportunity to grow, I think that's very important, and we see that in different industries, and not just in design or marketing, but in accounting and finance. We're also, as millennials, we're always looking for opportunities to grow in our roles and to be more involved. And I think it's even interesting right now to see some companies doing case competitions within the company to have more employees involved, not only, to fulfill their roles, what they're at the company for, but to do extra roles and be more committed to the company and working with different people from different departments and kind of have that cohesiveness intertwined together through interesting challenges that cultivates innovation, teamwork, and family, and that personal relationship. And so I think that's really helpful too. Case competitions for employees, and I love case competitions myself, so I say that. But going into the next question, when in regards to challenges, you mentioned Toyota encourages team members to challenge what's possible. Describe an environment that provides you with the challenge and excitement that you're looking for. And we have Max answering this question.
Hi, Max.
Hello, can you hear me? Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for having me. Really excited to be here. My name is Max Lynch. I'm from Fordham University in New York City. I'm a part of the Gavelli School of Business. I'm studying applied accounting and finance, and I'm minoring in sustainable business.
Wow.
So an environment that provides me with a challenge and excitement that I'm looking for. I think I'd best put this in way of an example. It's something that I'm a part of right now, and I think it could relate very well because Fordham is an institution. Toyota in itself is somewhat an institution, and there are definitely relations there. But I'm a part of a group called the Social Innovation Collaboratory, and we're working for social innovation to promote things like social justice, global sustainability. And I think the part about this environment that excites me as a millennial so much is that we're breaking apart different silos at our university. So whether that be our liberal arts school coming together with our business school, coming together with our social science school. We have about 15 different schools, and at the collaboratory, we work to bring everyone together in one conversation so that everyone with their own expertise can come up with these new ideas that we're looking for to drive growth and drive change at our university. And then as a student at my university, through the collaboratory, I'm brought into conversations with admins and our provost at the university. So we're seeing students at the table at very important conversations with higher level people at our university. And I think that is also part of my environment that excites me and it challenges me. And then at the last point being the opportunity to create an impact. Like I said before, we work to promote social innovation for social justice and global sustainability. That's something very near and dear to my heart. A lot of other millennials as well. We have a group. We're about a couple hundred strong, and this conversation is happening so much. And I think that is kind of my last point that I'd like to talk about. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Max. It gives me some really good feedback of how to combine thoughts that Sabina had shared as well on being able to probably come up with your own project, your own initiative, own ideas, implement them with a cross-cultural team, and then have an ability to present that to an audience that can probably help provide resources and funding to make it happen.
Exactly.
Is that fair?
Yeah,
I can do that well. So we have an innovation fair that started off within our IT group, and then it's expanded over the last 5+ years now to be across the whole company. And now we're actually setting aside budget funds to be able to implement that. But I didn't connect it to an activity to help attract and retain. So you're giving me thoughts of, okay, I can take an existing forum, highlight it, open it up to some of our newer employees to give encouragement so they can make a difference. So thank you, Max.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Sorry. So we're actually at, we're 10 minutes away from the ending time, but are you, it's totally up to you. We understand you have other commitments too, but we would love to talk to you and extend the conversation if you have the freedom to do so.
I'm flexible, so we're good if it works for you.
Awesome. Okay. And like Max mentioned too, with challenges, with that opportunity for employees to kind of challenge themselves and challenge what the company has always been about, and have that kind of entrepreneur spirit in not only the company itself, but in every employee is very important, because I feel like not only with customers, but employees, everyone has such a different story to tell, where they're from, how they were brought up, and their experiences, and their outlook and perspective about the world, and even the company possibly. And so transitioning into inclusion, vast diversity of thought, diversity of experience, and diversity of backgrounds build a richer foundation for Toyota and help us meet our customers' needs. We have very active business partnering groups and a wonderful Toyota for Good community outreach program, which is very exciting, and Michael actually would love to comment on that.
Hi, thank you, Sabina, for
Hi, Michael. Good to see you again.
Tracey, nice to see you again. And for those that I haven't met, my name is Michael Adams, and I just graduated from the University of Washington, Foster School of Business. My majors were entrepreneurship and marketing, and I, like Sabina, love case competitions. So I think this is a great question, Tracey, and one that I can actually speak on Toyota's, my experience with Toyota on this. And I think that when you're talking about diversity of thought and inclusion, it starts at the top, and I think that you're doing a great job with that. I was invited to come, when I was interning with Bill Amata at IW Group, I was invited to come work with Karen Masayama. She goes by Kiko. Yeah. And I worked with the Special Olympics Torch Run rally. And just to give all the women that are on this call an idea of what it's like at Toyota, I was the only man in the room, and the vice president was African American. I think there's like there's Japanese, Chinese American, and there's Caucasian. This big diverse pool, and I was the youngest. I think that was the only millennial. Most were baby boomers and Gen Xers. But it was a great opportunity when you're talking about diversity of thought and inclusion and age. It was great to bring a millennial perspective to that meeting, and it was a great experience to work. I was in charge of the cheerleaders at the Special Olympics, so they had all the cheerleaders that came in that were, there's kids with Down syndrome and stuff, and it was a great experience. And parlaying that with Toyota for Good, I think that there's an awesome opportunity for especially the millennial generation. We really connect with the giving back to the community. And so I did a little bit of research. Toyota for Good has only been used 3 times on Twitter as a hashtag, once on Instagram, and it's never been used. It doesn't have its own page on Snapchat. So when it comes to retaining and seeking out new employees for Toyota, I think there's an amazing opportunity to use that as a platform to show what the millennials with your community are out there doing at Toyota. And then when it comes to the Toyota for Good, I think it's fantastic what your CEO did when you went to Plano and donated $1 million to the school system there, because you know that you're going to be bringing a lot of employees there. I think that your headquarters are really a great beacon for millennials because that new workspace looks amazing. I was at the Torrance office and I saw the video and wow, that looks great. But I think that there's also an opportunity to, I just graduated, so I'm in recruiting right now. I have interviews with Amazon and Zillow and a list of other companies. And I think that one thing that separates certain companies, you mentioned the training program that you have. I saw it on your email. I went to the webpage for the training program, and when I clicked to apply, it sent me to a list of 180 jobs that are open. And so I think that if you can make that an easier transition, and so I know exactly what to apply for, because to be honest, I searched for 30 minutes and I couldn't actually find the listing, and I'm pretty tech savvy. So I don't know if it's even up there, but those are just some suggestions that I have. But I think that going forward, you know, it's like soup. With all the different ingredients of the soup, you know, age, perspective, you know, that's what makes a great company. And I think Toyota is really creating a good, you know, a bowl for the soup, you know, to put all the ingredients in. And I think that one thing that you have to be careful of too with millennials is not taking them at face value. When you look at someone, they may look a certain way, but you have no idea their background. Like even for me, like I'm a Caucasian male, you know, but I was raised in a multicultural family. I went to Japan and worked with Tomodachi and U.S.-Japan Council.
Oh, you did? Oh, that's great.
Yeah, yeah, it was IFCA through Tomodachi and U.S.-Japan, but those opportunities, it was foster care and there's stuff, but that doesn't matter. But what I'm saying is that you don't know someone's story when you first look at them. And so when you see all these different people within our community, I've met people that I had no idea what their backgrounds were, and they create such great, rich perspective. And when you're looking at recruiting, I would urge to look outside of just, you know, the major cities and the big schools, because one thing that's unique about this community is there's a lot of smaller schools that are representative here. Instead of University of Oregon, there's Eastern Oregon University and so on. And they have great perspective. And I think that when we come from such a diverse country where there's rural and city and there's great perspectives and they're your customer, I would urge you to recruit millennials from all these different vast backgrounds.
Thank you, Michael. Really, really good feedback. You'll laugh on the job search. I actually brought that to our HR group's attention, and I showed them a different company's website. I said, I want it to look like this, you know, entry-level positions, mid-career, seasoned, click, click. So I'm going to tell them you said that.
Thank you.
But really wonderful suggestions for us to consider going forward. And I'm embarrassed about our social media presence or lack thereof, so I'm going to send a note to Jack Hollis on that one, who's our head of the Toyota division. He'll die as we're coming together. We're ramping up for the Olympics, Tokyo Olympics, and so we have a lot of opportunity there. So good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's a great gift.
Michael had such good feedback. All of us millennials are really engaged on social media, and that to me was like an extremely crucial point. But along with diversity, there's usually a word that comes along with diversity, and it's inclusion. You always hear diversity and inclusion. So one of the questions Tracey has asked is, please share ways that Toyota could build a more inclusive culture, and Reese is going to answer that for us.
Hi, Tracey. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can. Great to meet you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, I'm Reese Johnson. I'm a senior at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, studying marketing, and I'll be graduating in just a few short weeks in May. So definitely very excited for the home stretch of school. I'm very thankful to have you on the call today. And when I saw this question, I think, first of all, it's really encouraging that you're even asking. And I think that more and more companies ask, but when we have the opportunity to listen to the way that you talk about Toyota, the issues that are important at a senior management and executive level, it's really clear that this isn't just lip service, that this is something that's really vital to the company moving forward, and you see the value in it. And I think first things first, you're absolutely on the right track already. But I was a little bit hesitant to answer this question, and sometimes I feel as a white male that I don't have that much to offer into the diversity discussion and into the inclusion discussion. But the community has really opened my eyes up to the importance of engaging all parties. Coming from the rural Midwest, unfortunately, I've had a lot of exposure to a lack of diversity that's really concerning. and it makes me realize just how vital it is to make sure that's integrated for the good of the company, not just strategically because it makes business sense, but because socially that's the right thing that you should do. And that just pretending that you don't have to have that discussion doesn't do anything to advance, but truly when you're engaging all parties, that I think that's where you really make people feel valued, and ultimately that's where you can create the most progress. And just tangibly, I think that there's a few things that, and these aren't necessarily my thoughts, but just things overall from the community that I've learned that I think are great pieces of advice. But I think the first thing is to treat diversity and inclusivity with the importance that it should have. And a lot of times it's kind of put in the same box with HR of we have to do these things and we have to check these boxes or else we'll get in trouble. But really, inclusivity and making sure that every party is engaged and brought together cohesively for the good of the company is really where you create the most value. And it's exciting and it should be engaging. And I think when you talk about it with that tone, that you create the most engagement and buy-in from your employees. The second thing I think that's really important is to create some sort of diversity pulse for your company. And I'm a big believer that if you can't measure it, you can't change it. And if you don't track it, you don't know. And for me, I often, again, feel like I may not have that much to offer into the discussion. So when it comes to inclusion, maybe my opinion might not be as valid. But if I have the opportunity to say what inclusivity means to me and what diversity means to me, I'm so much more likely to be engaged and to buy into that process. And I think that that creates ownership among employees and really through all levels of the organization, that allows it to take shape. And the final thing that I would say is if you can provide channels of access and influence to your senior leadership for all employees, whether that's a bi-weekly, quarterly, once a month, whatever it is, that someone can send an email to an executive to offer their insights or advice. There's a lot of little things that you can do like that that really drive home to employees that this is important and this matters to the fabric of our company. But we also know that you have just as good of an idea as we do of how inclusivity should be created. And I think that when you listen to your employees, you can create some really positive change.
Mm-hmm. Wow, Reese. I would never discount your voice. Don't ever do that because it's very important and you provide a lot of great thought and you've carefully considered your position. I think one of the most impactful sessions that we had in looking at D&I was we had kind of goes to Michael's comment of don't judge your based upon cover, and we had different groups that were represented, and so I distinctly remember that they had 3 white male come in and speak, and they introduced themselves and said, one, I am married with 3 children. I am single. I am divorced with 2 kids that I'm trying to get through college. And their viewpoint and their perspective of the company was quite different. And they said, don't judge us just based upon a category. And I think bring really meaningful thought to that. I like your idea about access. And one that we're thinking about, how do we consider when we've got 4,000 people on the same campus? And we typically have done things like little coffee meetings, or there was today a little note about Jamba Juice gathering to try to have people go through. I've tried to think about how do I personalize that relationship so that it's meaningful, personalized, individual, and I like your thoughts. Those are things that I'll have to consider as we go forward. We've done the email thing, and I got to tell you, it didn't work out well in the sense that some of the content of what people sent to us was not necessarily one versus a direct interaction. So I think the difference we're going to do is not anonymous. We did anonymous before. Wasn't as great. One that I'll share that I'm proud of that we've done is a mentoring walk for the last 9 years. And it sounds funny. It's just a walk around campus. But we pair an executive with 2 individuals and hopefully have a conversation that's two-way of what the viewpoint is of the company and things that they could make for a suggestion. And then we break out to reception so that we could hopefully do introductions across the organization for people to maybe be able to meet. and dialogue and listen closely to things that we could be considered. But your comment about change doesn't happen without things being measured, taking a pulse, I like that. I like that. So good food for thought. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Reese.
So the idea of diversity actually leads into our next question, because diversity is actually what retains me in a company. Our question is regarding retention. So the question is, CNN Money reports that the new normal was for millennials to jump jobs 4 times in their first decade out of college. Average tenure is 2.8 years for 25 to 34-year-olds. Historically, Toyota's turnover has been 3 to 4% on average. What are important ways to you to improve retention? And we're going to have Julie answer that for us.
Hi, Julie.
Oh.
Hello. Hi. I'm sorry. I think we're having some technical problems. Can you hear me there?
I can hear you, and you're clear now.
Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. It's been such an interesting conversation. So this is a question that we get a lot at the National Millennial community, because it's not a problem that's only happening to companies like Toyota, but many companies have their retention problems with millennials. And what I normally answer when I get this question, and companies ask me, well, what can we do to keep you, is I'll stay at a company as long as I grow and I advance in my career. So that has very much to do with career advancement, right? But what we've also come to understand here at the National Millennial community, that career advancement often has very different meaning to companies than what it has to us millennials. So companies often interpret that as, you know, we as millennials, we want to come into the company, we want to be promoted very soon, and hopefully become the CFO as yourself in a few years. But actually, and I think a few of my colleagues have mentioned that already, what we mean by career advancement is much more horizontal rather than lateral. So in terms of getting different experiences, getting different responsibilities, I think some of them mentioned, you know, being assigned on different teams and having things like being challenged. Like one of the things that I was really glad to hear is that Toyota encouraged their team members to challenge what's possible. And I think that for us millennials, that's a very attractive idea, to be every day challenged in different ways, whether that is traveling a lot to different countries. Toyota is a global company, or learning more about the innovative programs that you're working on and getting a chance to, you know, getting hands-on experience. So that's much more of the career advancement that we look for in a company, I would say, that I look for myself. And I think a lot of my colleagues, from what I've heard, would agree with that. For example, Amanda says, well, I would love for a company to invest in me as a professional. So many companies, when they hear that, they're like, oh, great, so she wants a bonus. But for her, it's much, for a lot of us, it's much more, you know, how can a company make me grow as the best professional and person, both sides, that I want to possibly be. And I think Toyota offers a lot of great opportunities by what I've heard.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you so much.
I like that. It's actually reassuring to know that the growth can be horizontal as well. I'm looking at a rotation program within the team to develop and formalize that a little bit more. We've had a management training program for graduate students that they come in and they do 2 years of 6-month rotations, and then they spin out to a position that they want on a longer term basis. But I want to mirror that for those that are already within our group to consider. And you've kind of cemented the thought that maybe this would be an attractive option for people.
That sounds great. I mean, I think it would be very attractive to me if I were the type of things I'm looking for in a company. So that sounds great. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Julie, for that feedback. A lot of the millennials in our conversations when this question has been asked have mentioned growth. That will really help us stay, and as long as we feel entrepreneurial and that we can really make change and continue to cultivate ourselves within the company, we'll stay. You mentioned the rotational program, and that leads us to our last question. So Tracey says, I'm looking at developing a rotational program within accounting and finance to provide exposure to multiple departments and management styles. The focus will be on up and commerce. If you were designing a high potential rotational program, what would you be sure to include? And Rashiba's going to answer that for us. Sheila.
I know that we ran over, so maybe someone fell off.
Yeah, and we cut the last question as well, so we made this one our last. But if she is offline, if any members would like to chime in, we would love to hear your thoughts. Nope.
Okay, I totally understand it. I know that time is running short on everybody, so that's okay. You guys have given me such rich feedback. I appreciate so much. Oh, we've got one saying, give us a second. Someone wants to come in.
Yeah, and in the meantime, too, I can actually answer this question. So most of the internships that I've done are accounting internships and audit and consulting, which I'm going to be going into as a project controller at Deloitte this summer. And so with the internships that I've done, I like how focused they are, but it also really, I think, robs the interns of the opportunity to really explore the company. And we're not only talking about interns here, we're also talking about employees, part-time, full-time, but especially the lower level employees. I think it's very important for teams, I think especially accounting and finance functions, to know what the company is like as a whole and not just on a balance sheet. You can only know so much from the cost and all of that, but to really understand a company and why you're doing what you're doing, it's definitely essential to have a rotational program, to go into different departments, to step foot into those areas and say, I'm a rookie at this area, but I'm excited to learn. And a while ago, I was at University of Arizona, and we went through this behavioral challenge thing. They had different teams on both sides of the gym and said, whoever crosses wins, but you're not done until all teams cross the lines.
It's a great exercise.
Yeah, and so my team really, we crossed the team and we thought we crossed the entire gym and we thought we had won, but the other team was still struggling to get through it. And we really learned a really big lesson there, that it wasn't about how successful we were doing as a department, but the company as a whole. And to have that,
Good.
yeah, and so like accounting and finance departments, I think it's really easy for us to really focus just on one thing, getting our thing done, especially because they're really complex too, as with any department really. But having that focus is nice, but don't have that focus at the expense of overlooking and neglecting the company's mission as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So a really high potential rotational program would be putting employees, especially in the lower position, have them go into different departments, into training, talk to those employees, and have that opportunity to teamwork. And you could really do that through case competitions too, because when you're in a case competition in a team of 6 or so, you really have to work. You can't just stay silent, you have to talk. And when you're representing your department or your interest, your expertise, you're putting that on the table, you're being vulnerable, but you're also learning. And that's what really enriches a company and every individual. And so I hope that helped you. It seems like East Oregon is Oregon.
It does. Thanks, Sabina.
Yeah.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hello. My name is Cody Singer. Like you said, I'm from Eastern Oregon University. Very excited to be here. So thank you guys for your time. I know we're running a little bit over, so I'll make my answer quick. I just want to echo exactly what you guys have been referring to. I think it's important that there's a cross-functionality to it, and that we're able to access different parts of the organization and really diversify our skills, not only so we can find areas that we can be successful in, but also vice versa. You mentioned, Sabina, that teamwork is an important component of this and gives us the potential to create synergy in order to come up with better answers. And I think a cool component of that teamwork would be to develop some sort of think tanks potentially, and getting innovative and creative with ideas. Mentorship programs was something you identified at the very beginning. I think that would be an incredible first step in order to develop mentorships and bring different parts of the organization together in order to have those conversations. Ultimately, engaging the entire community to seek out that success.
I like that. I like that. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Yeah.
No, I appreciate you spending that to share that with us. I think you're emphasizing the cross community, and if I were to tie it to who your stakeholders are, that's what I was kind of thinking of, is someone who's working in the Lexus division as a financial analyst physically is sitting in the division itself, so they're surrounded by their customers, but maybe some groups have multiple internal customers. So how do I make sure that they've got exposure, and maybe even if you shadow someone in first a 2-year rotation department, that might be a mini way to be able to get a little more skin in the game. Plus, my assumption is once there's a personal relationship, then that will be a natural learning opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
So on behalf of the National Millennial community, we really want to thank you for taking the time and, sticking around with us a little extra just to really, provide us with your insights. We hope we were helpful to you as well. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, I just want to thank you for having me, spending the time with all of you, and your feedback is invaluable. You don't know how timely it is because we're launching that whole new team right now. I have to share with you, though, I am so impressed by your talent, the energy. Bill has been bragging about you. I just want you to know that. I was with him a couple weeks ago at a board meeting, and he should be rightly proud of the Millennial community that you've built. And I'm sure that you're going to stay in touch with each other as the alumni go on and progress. And I can only hope that my own children could be as talented as all of you. So congratulations.
Thank you.
So just to say goodbye, if all the members, there's only like 6 slots available for each of you to come wave goodbye, but if you guys would like to come wave and say goodbye, we would love to see you all.
Later. Thank you. Thanks, Edith.